Hello everyone, we are Group 1 and this is our final presentation. Our topic is about the climate change and sea level rise. So before we start our presentation, we will watch a video together. So let's start it.
Katrina, as most of you know, has become a monster of a hurricane, a Category 5 storm.
An Army National Guard helicopter today rescued people from rooftops, fragile islands in the floodwaters.
Hurricane Sandy crashing on shore, winds now at 90 miles per hour.
We've got a significant problem on our hands, so we have a lot of work to do.
The United States is no stranger to devastating hurricanes, but few people spend their time thinking about the next one. Here in Tampa Bay, it's easy to just live in the moment. But this is one of the most vulnerable areas in the country to extreme weather and rising sea levels. Global warming is likely to bring more of both. Tampa Bay hasn't been hit by a major hurricane since 1921, but there's been no lack of near misses. Some scientists point to location, others to luck. Most agree that the city is overdue for the next big storm.
Our first part of this presentation is the scope of the project. So our site is Tampa, mentioned in the video just now. This city in Florida has developed rapidly in recent years, and its economy is growing rapidly, attracting more and more people to come here and gradually becoming a popular tourist destination. However, due to its location, geography, and population, Tampa is one of the most vulnerable cities in United States when a hurricane comes. So the Tampa Bay is long and grows narrow and shallow when you move to Tampa. When a hurricane comes through Tampa Bay, its winds can push a wall of water, known as storm surge, into this ever-tightening container. So when a storm comes through, the bay rises. And sometime soon, we don't know when, the worst-case scenario will arrive, a Category 5 hurricane named Phoenix. So what is the Hurricane Phoenix? It's not what I make up. In fact, it's designed by the National Weather Service Forecast Office. And why we do that? So the goal of this planning process is to develop strategies that will help the Tampa Bay region to recover and rebuild after such a devastating catastrophe. So why this is a disaster? First, it's a Category 5 hurricane. It's the highest catalog that a hurricane can up to. And the second, it can cause a 26-feet storm surge. And this storm surge will affect people's life and maybe last 50 days. And on the right, we can see some map. They show the path of the simulated Hurricane Phoenix, and it changes when it comes in the different day and different times.
This is the historical impact of hurricanes in Tampa and Florida, starting with the 1921 hurricane that was the last direct impact to Tampa City. The following is the last Category 5 hurricane to hit Florida. It was in 1935 with wind speeds up to 205 miles per hour. The next three hurricanes are Category 4 hurricanes, and we can see that the water surge has decreased, although the wind speeds and the cost of damages did not decrease. And we can see that there's an exception with Hurricane Irma, and that was only because the hurricane's path changed at last minute. So that was the reason why the cost and impact decreased. The last hurricane is Hurricane Phoenix, and that is the impact it will bring with storm surges higher than we have ever seen. The projected damage is $230 billion, and this is due to the lack of preparedness and Tampa's inability to sustain the Category 5 impact.
So in order to understand the horror of Phoenix more intuitively, we will browse this data together. So at first, it's predict that this Phoenix will cause almost 2,000 people die, and Tampa will lose almost $200 billion, and almost 40 million structure will destroyed in the process of this hurricane, and millions of gallons will also lose in the Phoenix. And more, all the bridges that span Tampa Bay will be cut off. Their emphasis on water. A big reason why huge Category 5 storms will be worse in the future will be due to the fact that there will be more for hurricanes to destroy. Namely, we keep building and adding more people to hurricane-prone areas like Tampa Bay. So we need to at least prepare for the storms that have come before.
Second part is analysis of existing conditions, include vulnerability to Phoenix, land cover, transportation hierarchy, and hurricane-affected area.
Here's our vulnerability to Phoenix suitability model. We broke it into 3 sections: disasters, social, and future predictions. So for the disaster vulnerability, we use maps with different data to emphasize areas in Tampa most vulnerable in cases of disasters, flooding, surges, hurricanes. Social vulnerability, we used different layers of maps that highlight different economic and social backgrounds, and we did this to just show where these demographics tend to populate within Tampa. For future predictions, it's just showing what the future of Tampa floodplain population looks like in the future. And then on the right, we have all these 3 sections compiled into one map, and this map is just simply showing you which areas are most vulnerable to Phoenix if it were to hit. So here's our site. It's outlined in the black dotted line. Overlaid, you can see the bluish green sort of layer, the future floodplain as well as the current floodplain. We got this information using NOAA's data on the current and future sea level rise in the Tampa area, and you can see this in the chart down below. NOAA predicts that in 100 years the Tampa area could see a sea level rise of up to 8 inches, which is pretty alarming. So if Phoenix were to hit, it probably our site would be devastated. So something definitely needs to change.
This is the land use coverage of our site, with the majority being light industrial with 29.5% of our area, following by the railroad system with 22%.
So this is the land cover portion of our site inventory. We sort of broke it up into 2 sections. The more greenish tinted shades in the map are, granted they're all green, but the more green shades in the map are green land basically, forest, farmland, wetland, and then sort of the bluish green we put as developed land. That includes open and low, medium, and high. And basically this just emphasizes the disproportionate amount of developed land there is on our site, and how our design we want to change that and make the green land a larger percentage and stand out much more than it does right now, with not even a quarter of the percentage going towards green space.
What you're seeing is the transportation breakdown of our site, with the railroad system being the majority. It is important to note that only 20% of the roads have paved and accessible sidewalks. for the public to use. And this is something that reflects the light industrial majority of our site as well.
This graphic shows the impacted area from Category 1 to Category 5 hurricane. Most part of commercial and industrial land will be impacted by Category 5 hurricane. When Hurricane Felix comes, it's easy to imagine the hurricane will cause super big property loss. From the section graphic, you can see how storm surge gradually occupy our site. During the Hurricane Felix, storm surge is more than 10 feet. Coastal, commercial, and industrial area will be submerged at first. The next is the business center and railway system. At the peak of the Felix, almost 26 storm surge can even flood some part of the residential area.
Our site is exposed to devastating levels of storm surge. If Hurricane Phoenix were to hit, it would have lasting effects on Tampa. With smart urban design, we will be able to curtail the damage and create a sustainable future for this area. And just overlaid on the right in green, you can see the areas of Tampa's coast that are impacted by surge. It's a significant amount.
So according to our site analysis and the characteristic of Hurricane Felix, 3 problems are obvious. There are shoreline erosion, no protection infrastructures, and impermeable ground surface. The third part includes the design part and some details. We will show our strategy and how we apply our strategy. Also the master plan and show some design details. Our strategy can be simply called triple defensive line. The first defensive line is to deal with the shoreline erosion. We want to use some biological method to strengthen our coastline. The second line is hurricane defense line. We plan to take measures about the ecological infrastructure and some engineering infrastructure. The third defensive line is more like to deal with the inner part of the urban area. At the peak of the Hurricane Felix, more than 20 feet storm surge and the heavy rainfall will cause a huge amount of water, So the third defensive line, called urban drainage line, this line is more like a network of greenland and porous ground surface. We hope to use this defensive line to drain those additional water quickly.
So for the erosion control line, hurricane defense line, urban drainage line, we have 9 toolboxes. So for the erosion control line, we have oyster reef, invasive plants, remove, and salt marsh buffer. So the oyster reef can stop the direct impact of the wave on the coast, thus protecting the coast from erosion. And clean up exotic species can ensure the stability of the ecosystem, thus ensuring that coast plants can protect coastal soil. And the mangrove and the salt marsh buffer is the tide energy absorption zone, which promotes beach siltation. It's conducive to coastal protection. And for the hurricane defense line, we have the mangrove forest, channel buffer, and multifunction seawall. So the mangroves intermediate developer roots can effectively retain land sand and reduce the sediment concentration in the coastal waters. And the dams and turbines are just like green brick wall, which can effectively resist wind and waves. And the channel buffer can absorb the incoming seawater as quickly as possible in inland areas. And the seawall is a powerful artificial shield blocking the winds and waves of a Category 5 hurricane, which is Phoenix. And for the last one, the urban drainage line, we have porous paver, bioswale network, and extended wetland. All of them is used to make the drainage of the water most efficiently.
This graphic is to show how we apply our strategy. The outer layer is the oyster reef. The oyster reef can reduce the energy of the wave and also can protect the salt marsh habitat. The oyster reef is located on the edge of the salt marsh. The salt marsh at the second layer plays an important role. It can help to prevent the sediment transport and also work as a good way to recover local ecological system. Then the mangrove forest, the multifunction seawall, and the channel buffer make up the second defense line. The mangrove forest can reduce the energy of the medium-scale hurricane. Seawall is designed along the vacant land under the elevated highway. The seawall can block medium to large-scale hurricane. During the normal times, it's the seawall and the space near the seawall is more like a linear public space. It can be used by local residents. The channel buffer is like a concave greenland. It can absorb some wave which go over the seawall. For the drainage defensive line, we plan to combine wetland, porous paver, and bioswale. This system can help to reduce the water upon ground surface. The bioswale is designed along streamline. Wetland is designed in the lowland and work as a temporary catchment. The bioswale goes through the whole site, which can reduce the runoff upon the impervious surface like the road and the parking lot.
So this is our master plan. As we can see from the plan, we have designed a very clear coastal protection system for the coastline. The first line is the oyster reef to protect the coastline from damage, but it cannot resist the larger storm surge. And the second line is the salt marsh. It's an energy absorbing zone for tides, which promotes the siltation of beaches and is beneficial to coastal protection. And swamp has filtering effect on coastal industrial pollution. The third line is the mangrove forest. The interconnected development root system can effectively retain lay, sand, and reduce the sediment concentration in the coastal water. And the fourth line is the seawall, which can withstand fierce storm surge in the area close to the inland. We have designed a network of interconnected green space system in which bioswale is used to connect various street corner green spaces and city parks, which can effectively dredge after storm surge evasion. In addition, we will also focus on developing the center region and the commercial center to provide better quality of life for the people. Our green space protection system connects all green spaces in inland and coastal areas. The drainage network covering the entire area will efficiently drain water and enable the city to recover from storm surge faster.
For the land use, the outer part will be restorative green space, and in order to reduce the potential hazard of the Hurricane Felix, the area near the coastline will be some temporary building, include mobile home, low-density industrial area, and low-density commercial area. The intersection of the arterial will be the center of the East Tampa. Nearby land use will be mixed use, commercial, and high-density residential. North of our site is much safer than the south part. so the lost part will be more residential area. The further away from the major arteria, the lower the building density is. We kept most part of the original traffic, but some changes are still made upon the local street according to the new building footprint. Also, in consideration of the risk near the coastline, the elevated highway located in the south of the site is designed to be the secondary arterial. For the building footprint, the mixed-use buildings are added near the intersection center. In consideration the increase of the commercial and industrial area, more people will live in our site, so we add more family house in the lost part. The green network includes wetland, community park, industrial buffer, restorative green space, and biosphere. In this graphic, wetland is designed on the intersection of the stream line, which can be used as a temporary water catchment. The community parks are evenly distributed on our site. Most part of the parks are built on the foundation of the original natural area on the existing green space. Industrial buffer is designed along the light industrial area and the heavy industrial area. It can reduce the bad effect of the industrial land. Restorative green belt is located on the outer part of our site, work as the first defensive line. It can reduce the coastline erosion and reduce the energy of the small-scale hurricane. Biosphere is a linear green space which can connect almost all green space at Norland. It works as the transportation corridor to help to drain additional water and also an ecological corridor for urban ecosystem.
This is our growth model for hurricane defense habitats that would border our master plan. They include 3 habitats: the mangrove forest, followed by the low salty marsh, and then the oyster reefs that would be in the water. As they all have different growth and habitat schedules, it's important for us to implement them and reintroduce them more effectively. Starting with day 1, the mangrove forest would be introduced as seedlings because they can grow more easily than being introduced as seeds. And the low salty marsh would be introduced as adult grass patches, but they would only be planted on sides of their area that do not directly border the mangrove forest. And this would help the marsh slowly gain area and not displace the forest. As for the oyster reef, they would be introduced in oyster balls and oyster cages that would hold empty shells that help oysters attach themselves more easily. All habitats would be at a mature state and be independently growing within 10 years of introduction, with mangrove forests at 30 feet high, salt marsh with 100% area coverage, and the oysters in its 3rd generation of species.
So this is our first section and want to show the scenario of the coastline. We can see the first line oyster reef, second line salt marsh, third line mangrove forest very clearly. They connect each other and combine them. We can see a very naturally scenario, not much artificial elements in there, and very attractive. If the hurricane comes, they can protect the coastline, and if on the normal time, it's also very attractive, have multiple function. For example, we can see the bridge in the forest. People can walk on the bridge or just go down to the oyster reef to see the beautiful scenario of the coastline, and we can see some natural wild like the seabirds or some like other animals in here, and it's very attractive and suitable for people who wanna live in the coastline or attack the natural.
So in this section you can see a portion of our vegetative buffer. We chose plants that have just high growth rates, dense root systems, are very salt tolerant, durable, adaptable, and can really defend against surge and just the onslaught of wind or erosion to the coastline, as well as defending against Phoenix if it were to come in.
This is our second section. In that section, I want to show how our land system integrates into the city and optimizes the urban environment. You can see our roadways in the city. Bioswale will be arranged on both sides of the sidewalks. They will collect rainwater and connect with pipes on the ground. When storm surge invades, the water flow can be dredged as soon as possible to restore traffic. At the same time, they are also part of the natural beauty. We can make them survive for a long time and become part of the beautiful street view of the city through different plant configurations. And the peak of Phoenix storm surge will go over seawall. The channel buffer behind the seawall will help to reduce the energy of storm surge. And we can see our seawall and the highway. They also built a space for the people to have the normal activities in the city.
So in this section, you can see sort of what we have lined up for green space throughout the entirety of the site. You can see the alley on the right, the bioswales in the middle. We chose plant species for these bioswales that, again, are hardy and tolerant of heat, drought, but also some salt spray and can take some sun, These plants range from yuccas to succulent ground covers. A nice mix that'll add some life to our site.
So this perspective is located behind the seawall. The purpose of this perspective is to show why the seawall is reasonable. So you can see I want those areas become a public space, vacant land become a walkable space, an outdoor community market, and an outdoor sports place. People can go to this market and get some seafood maybe, and they can take exercise here, they can dance, ride the bicycle, whatever. I want to show this place become valuable and popular. Meanwhile, this wall can protect the city. This wall is valuable quality and reasonable price. That's the reason why government should invest on this big project. So this perspective is about the oyster reef and salt marsh. The oyster reef located on the edge of the salt marsh, which can prevent the sediment transport. Also, the salt marsh can be a good habitat for the oyster. So salt marsh buffer is designed to be the oyster farm. It's a good circulation. We use oyster reef to protect the salt marsh so that we can get better habitat, and then we get more oyster. It's like kill two birds with one stone. So this is our bird view. This city has become more dynamic after we design. We can clearly see that our coastal protection system not only fully prepares for Phoenix, but also perfectly integrates with the site. We have enabled the city to have a higher greening rate with any more space for activities along the coastline, and at the same time, the connection between the city and the greenbelt along the coastline has made the whole city closer to nature and greatly improved people's living environments in the city. We can see that when the sixth-phase storm surge appeared, Saltmarsh was completely submerged and Mangrove was partially submerged, but Seawall was not threatened by the seawater. And in the 12th-phase storm surge scenario, the mangrove forest was completely submerged and only the highest part of the seawall could be seen, but interior of the city was still safe.